Hello everybody, this is a Lamley showcase. Super excited for this one. We're going to dig into BMW in a really fun, really interesting way. Cannot wait to get on with this video. So we will. I am centering it around this one, the 1983 BMW 733i, the Stranger Things BMW. I am super excited to open this one up. Cannot wait to do it. But I also noticed that the Elite64 BMW 3.0 CSL race came out about just what, a week or two ago. And then upcoming, and I think the excitement for this one is off the charts. Not a new model, we'll talk about in a minute. The BMW M3 GTR, this is the second version of that casting coming in the first mix of Boulevard. I will be diving into this one and that Boulevard mix here in another video, but I brought this one out too because we got to get into it. And there's been some other things. In fact, this car show I think you will really enjoy. So we're going to get to the Stranger Things BMW here in a second, definitely that one. But I want to start actually, and I think this is a good place to start and then move into the other models. I'm going to move this for just a second. You know why well, we'll get to that one. As a matter of fact, we'll just replace it with its carded version. I want to talk about this one. I'm really excited. This model I saw when we did the sneak peeks. I'm very excited to open it up. It was on Mattel Creations, the Elite64 BMW 3.0 CSL race. And I think it's still available, if I'm remembering correctly. But I guess, with the car show I'm going to be doing with these models, I think you'll find fascinating. I thought about bringing out the BMW race cars to compare with this one, but there's no reason to. I have mixed opinions about Elite64, if I'm being perfectly honest. I know I'm supposed to be the big hype master and stuff. I actually like this on its own. I love this model. I think it's really, really well done. But if I were to pull out classic BMW race cars from Hot Wheels, whether they be basic or premium, even RLC, which I don't know if there are any, they don't compare. This is a completely different kind of model. In fact, I could argue that they, while it has the Hot Wheels logo on it, I'm not sure it's really a Hot Wheels, to be honest. I mean, there's again, long-winded, maybe more of an article type thing that I would write, and one day I will, or I'll talk through it, but not for this video. But I just don't, these Elite64, I think I choose if I want them individually. They don't really form a collection for me. And so and they don't tie in to how I like to collect Hot Wheels. That sounds like I'm being negative. In some ways I am, because I don't know if they fit totally within the branding that I like. But on the other side, they really are beautifully well done models. And I think the designers really love to go to town on these. It gives them a chance to maybe flex their muscles a little differently, a little outside of the Hot Wheels branding. And I think Phil did this one, and he did it beautifully. And there's some others coming up, and some ones that I know will be very strong and collectors will want here shortly, in fact, that will showcase it. But there's no reason to do a car show on this one, just because we just look at it individually, and I think it's really cool. Okay, 1975 BMW Pro CSL. Yeah, I mean, these are more, in fact, you could even, the one I thought about comparing to, obviously you could think Mini GT. I don't think Mini GT has done this casting, but I have this Kyosho from a while ago that I thought was the closest to this one, in that kind of ultra premium, replicating it as closely as possible. And I thought, well, maybe I could showcase that one. That would be the closest to it, but, it doesn't really get us anywhere. Because I actually think that one, compared to this one, especially when you're looking at the details of the wheels, really is different. So let's get this one open. Hard to do with gloves, but I did it. We'll move this out of the way. And here it is. Before we put it on the turntable, I don't think there's any moving parts. I'm fine with that, but look at this. I mean, the details on this are spectacular. So my complaint, branding, my praise, quality. Not every Elite64 model is hit. This one hits. Look at the exhaust, look at the details in the chassis. Look at these details. You do not see this even in a premium or RLC. Just because they can build it from scratch, they don't have any wheels they have to match to. I mean, look at that. Just the base of it by itself is pretty fabulous. And then you get into the details in the spoiler, tail lights, all of the intakes, headlights are gorgeous. I haven't Let's see if we can get into the interior a little bit. Sometimes that's hard, but yeah, pretty detailed in there too. It looks like they do have some detail on the interior. I guess we could go from this side, but we have the racing net there that kind of covers that up. All right. Anyway, let's put it on the turntable. I guess I'll also look at the wheels, this lace style with the Goodyear. I mean, that on its own, even just if I were just to show you this model and didn't worry about what brand made it, just said this is a replica of a BMW 3.0 CSL racing car, sometimes nicknamed the Batmobile because of its wing, you'd say, that's beautiful, I want it. And I would imagine that there would be thought, is that Mini GT? Is that, I don't know, Tarmac? Who else took this on? I'd say, no, this is Hot Wheels. And I think there'd be, going back to 100%, things like that. That is a nice model on its own. I just don't know where to put it, what it fits with. So I don't need to do a car show for it. I don't need to compare it to other BMW models. Just let it sit there on its own. As a matter of fact, that little thing I was using for the other BMW, that's probably the way to go here, right? I mean, a racetrack would be where to go, but this is ultimately where we could put it. Doesn't need to be with anything, right? That looks good. Anyway, I think that's a great model, but you see, and we'll talk more about, where I am on Elite and all that sort of thing in a little bit. All right, let's get to these Hot Wheels BMWs. Very, very excited about these and very, very excited to open them up. I already did, I think, for a short, maybe I should show them. For a short, I already opened up this one. This is from Pop Culture this year. It is a new casting, 2021 BMW M5. And for Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning, if I remember correctly, wasn't this car just like smashed to bits through some tiny, quaint European village or something, and didn't have the doors and everything else, if I'm remembering. Very Fast and Furious-y of that car. But just like anything, including Stranger Things, including anything, these budgets bring us cars like this. And this is in particular is very exciting because we've got quite the family of M5s that just, within the last couple years, just popped up. I don't know if Hot Wheels has ever done the M5. Matchbox did one years and years ago. But look at this little family. And I don't have everything out, I don't think. Maybe I do. I don't think. But look at what's formed in terms of just BMW M5s. This is from Fast and Furious. This casting originally came from Fast and Furious. This is the 1991 BMW M5, the E34. Done in black. I can't remember the context of Fast and Furious, but ultimately, again, I don't care. I just want the model, and we have it, and it's great. And the 10 spokes look good on that one. Very, very happy about that casting, and we've seen it a second time in even better version, I think. And the black M5 is signature, but this one in white from Boulevard this year, right? Released this year, I thought was gorgeous. I don't think I've missed any, but that one is fabulous. So there's two of the 90s, early 90s era M5. And then, even though this one was released earlier, this is a Phil Reelman design. You have the 2001, so 10 years later, you get this BMW M5. I'm not really talking in terms of generations here. We will in a minute on some of the other castings. But this one was released, built for the BMW 5-pack, or diorama set, right? We should be doing it this way, so you can kind of see these better, right? So that one in 2001, 10 years later, already 25 years old. And then we've had two other versions. Was this Canyon Carvers, I think? Beautiful version of that one in red with 10 spokes. I like the BMW Racing, but I do like the way I think of the M models. If they don't have like a GT something on the back, I like them looking like that. That beautiful red model with the 5 spokes I thought was cool, but the one that I think is, well, it's harder to get, of course, but it's just gorgeous, was the LA Convention model from a couple years ago, and in blue with these kind of metallicized, like not chrome, but kind of metal again. I just don't know why they don't use this. Some of us, we complain a little bit about the plastic. In fact, I can even show you, like, the plastic 10 spokes that we see on that Fast and Furious car versus this one. Do you see that subtle difference there? So you can go with like a dull looking, more metal looking rim. I just wish they would do that. Whatever budget they have to put in to get that done, it just like, that's fine. I don't complain about it as much as other people, but that is so much better. Anyway, I'm assuming it's a more expensive process. That's why you see it on something produced in small numbers like the convention cars. But I would hope that they could figure out a way to do that. So you already have, so you have this generation, you have this generation, and now because of Mission Impossible, we now have this generation. And what is the 2021, I guess, says there. So I'd have to dig in to see what we're missing in terms of general generations on these M5s, but we have 3 distinct versions. And yeah, I don't know if we see this car if we don't have the Mission Impossible tie-in. I don't know, you know, maybe one day we see it. You know, there's nothing is off limits as long as they have the license for it, I guess is the point. And getting this one, and I'm assuming, you know, we'll see it in Car Culture or Boulevard or something soon. And it already looks good with this black rims, kind of dark color. It doesn't pop necessarily like some do, but that's a fabulous family of BMW M5s and a very exciting one for me, at least personally as a collector, to continue to grow in that collection. They come out, I'm definitely adding them to the collection. All right, let's clean up and let's move on to, well, you'll see. All right, next car, even though we're going to be going a little, we're going to jump into the future with this one, and then we'll finish off with the 1983 BMW 733i, which I'm very excited about. Can't wait to open it. Let's talk about this one. And we will dive into this one a little bit more, and I will open it. But I'm not going to open it now because I still have to, it's still waiting for, I've already started my Boulevard showcase on this mix, but I got a bunch of other things before I release that one yet. So, and I haven't opened them yet. So I'm keeping this one carded for now. Obviously this came from Mattel for that sneak peek when it comes out, but this is the BMW M3 GTR, and this is very interesting. So here's the M3 GTR, and I thought, why don't we dig into the M3 for a second, because it is kind of interesting what we've got. I'm going to put this one back here, and the parallels I kind of didn't even realize were happening. Maybe some of you have. So we're going to use this little parking lot right here. Hopefully we have enough space. But let's talk about the generations of the BMW M3 that Hot Wheels has done. I've always said that I thought like Matchbox kind of did the better job with, well, I didn't necessarily do M's, but anyway, we'll just get to this in a second. Start with the E30 M3. And we have to go back to this casting. There's a billion versions of it. I just have one. I pulled this one from Car Culture of the E30 M3. This would be what, 1992. It's not marked on this, but some, early 90s. First generation M3, right? And Junimai design, we've seen it. It's been around for a long, long time. And there's several versions of it, basic and premium. I really like this black one. And I'm trying to go with street cars for the most part here, you'll see. So this is one of the reasons I pulled this beautiful all black version from an earlier mix of Car Culture. So you have that one. It's got some wide body on it. You could probably define it a little bit more. I'd love to see this casting get a little more detail. What's interesting is there's an RLC counterpart designed a lot later. Brendan Vituski did it. Totally built from scratch. It's a little bit shorter. It obviously has the opening doors and things. I don't have to focus on that right now. I'm just going to focus on the casting itself. Very nice. Honestly, I don't know which one is more accurate to that classic car, because to the E30. There's more details obviously in the RLC. This one does look good in the Spectraflame Blue. The wheels look good too. I still kind of prefer the old one for some reason. I almost feel like it represents the E30 a little bit better, but that's neither here nor there. But you have like this version for Car Culture and Basic, and then you have this beautiful, it really is nice. I mean, the details are so nice. And I think a lot of people say, no, that's the better one. That version, I think we've had 2 releases of that casting, and we're not done. Then you move to the next generation, the E36. And the E36 has been out for a while too. It started in Basic, and we've seen it once in Premiere, and that was in the Fast and Furious line. This casting also very cool, but it does have some old school, at least like, 10, 15-year-old old school details on it. In particular, that really rough front end that was, when they're building Basics at the time, there was like, are they track compatible? And this one needed this slanted up smashed chin for it to be track compatible. Today, they don't worry about that. The designers don't. They're like, let's make it cool. If it works on the track, great. If it doesn't, everyone will be happier because it looks accurate. And you know, this might be a little bit too long, this casting, but there's a lot of cool details here. And this one, I mean, what's the official? This is the BMW E36 M3 Race. So done obviously in a racing kit. Anyway, it's a nice casting. It does look good in this Fast and Furious version in black with the chrome wheels on it. I think it is very, very nice, but leaves a little to be desired, especially with its roots in basic. But as you probably know, it also has, as of just like a month or two ago, an RLC counterpart. And this one is perfect. I think this is still available, which is shocking to me because this casting is so cool. This is Rob Mathis's BMW M3 lightweight. I'm going to see, what does it say? 1995 BMW M3 LTW, obviously lightweight. This one done, you know, this kit or this version of this M3, same very cool E36 silhouette. I mean, if you had to choose a generation of M3, I mean, I don't know, because E30 is cool in its own way. I think the E36 might be the one to go. And then you pull out the E46 and you're like, man, maybe that's it. But I think to me, it's between the E36 and the E46. And we have what I believe now with, and look, are you looking forward to some way, somehow, a racing version of this one in white with the M trim? Yes, absolutely. This Spectre Flame Signature BMW Orange is a very interesting and kind of cool, kind of left field way to start it and kind of get you appreciation for the casting before what I hope will be is a very signature model coming out at some point. Just do it without the Spectre Flame. Just do a perfect RLC version of that with that trim. But that casting, if you have not purchased it and it's still available in Mattel Creations, it's one of the best of the year. It just is. It's fabulous. Okay, now moving on to the E46. And that's where we pop into what we're doing with this guy right over here. E46, premium and basic, premium and basic, premium. Now I could pull out, there's a Fast and Furious version, there's a cajillion versions of this one. But I wanted to pull out the cleanest street version, I guess even that Fast and Furious is. But this one obviously came from Car Culture. We've seen it quite a bit, quite a few mixes. There's several versions of it, but I pulled out this blue version, which I thought was nice with the black 10 spokes. E46 BMW M3. What does it say? The official is BMW M3 and then E46 in parentheses. Gorgeous car, perfect stance. Really, I mean, that grille on the E46 is so cool and it's so nicely detailed. This is a great model, one that's very, very exciting to have as well. So you've got that, and I don't have very many complaints about it, where there are some complaints on the other ones, the earlier models. But this one also has, as you probably know, an RLC counterpart as well. How bonkers is that? So this one has an RLC counterpart. This one I think I like. I like the basic better than the RLC in the E30. I like the RLC better than the basic or premium in the E36. And then I think I like the premium better than the RLC in the E46. There's not much difference there. This one is obviously more detailed than the other one, but I kind of like the trim, the racing trim on the premium version, you know, made for Fast and Furious and things. But I do think that the RLC, while it has its issues with its closing hood, which is one of the reasons sometimes I'm like, don't just jump into moving parts if you don't have to, unless you know it's going to be perfect. That one works, but there's been others where the hood doesn't close enough, and that's really, really frustrating. Now, while you're sitting in this world with the E46, that's where we go to the BMW M3 GTR, right? Now, if you want to, before we do that, you can go to the E90, 92, 93. This casting, almost forgotten, stayed in basic. We haven't seen it in a while. There's that grille. It's a very, I guess you would say it's a little bit plain compared, but it's nice. It's a very stock, almost matchboxy version of that casting. So you do have that one. In several colors, I think. We've seen it in several colors. And there's been I think this was actually released before that, the M3 GT2 of that generation, released several years ago, and we've seen a few versions of it. It'd be cool to see this one go premium. Released, yeah, it's been 15 years at least, I think, since this one debuted. And but that one is very cool. This is a very cool like racing version, and that kind of bridges nicely into the BMW M3 GTR, because the first version of this casting was this one from the 2-packs earlier in 2025. And my goodness, two castings that are the same, or the same casting, could not look more different. This, obviously, BMW M3 GTR. I think that's, what's the trim? What is it? 01 BMW M3 GTR on the chassis. Done in the racing livery, that existing racing livery. There's probably some details missing, but it's essentially there. Done as a race car. I think this casting was done as a race car. I think Ron Wong did this casting. Maybe Rob did, but I think this is Ron's design. And it does fit, like it does fit. This particular version fits better with the GT2 race car in terms of that legacy. This would be the earlier version, right? That'd be the later. And then all of a sudden, it takes on that look. Racing tempo's gone. It's done in silver. It's done with, instead of racing wheels, it's done with low profile street wheels. The spoiler goes from white to black, which looks really cool on this one. All of those racing details done as a street car, like the details in the casting look really good. And as Ron has said, and I think we can kind of like, Ron can't just come out and say perfect. Like, designers have to be, there's some politics, I guess, is what you're going to say when you're speaking as a designer, but I'm not. And we all know the most famous version of this casting. And Ron has hinted that he thought the next version of this needed to be in silver, so that if anyone wanted to add, say, I don't know, just like, I'm kind of saying off just randomly, I mean, like some blue trim or something. Let's just say some blue trim. If someone wanted to add some blue trim to this, they could. It's just a nice palette for, you know, if someone wanted to just, you know, kind of customize it for whatever reason, you know. He just wanted to give you guys a nice clean palette, because, you know, sometimes you don't have licenses for everything, and maybe one day you will, but if you don't for now and you're trying to think of like, what could we do? Well, give someone a blank canvas. And I think that is what they did. Cool, right? We'll open that one more. We saw it on the turntable. You got a sense of that casting. It's killing me that I'm not opening it yet, but I got work to do, right, with that one. All right. Cool, interesting, right? I think this M3, generations of the M3, I think we're all, like, outside of the most current one, we're well represented here. Who knows what else is coming? You know, there could be more race cars coming. There's obviously a billion trims that they could do with the M3, but very excited about that. And then you got to mix in, of course, the M1 came from Matchbox. This M2, I haven't, you know, there's other M2s than Hot Wheels has. You know, you could go into different generations with the original M2 that Hot Wheels did. They did the M4, but we're talking about the M3 here. But I mean, obviously we could go in a million different directions. Let's talk about the 1983 BMW 733i. I will be watching Stranger Things when the next season comes out. I do need to catch up on it. I do enjoy this show. It does. I am one of those. I'm old enough to see a lot of details in this show to make me very nostalgic. And one of them is the cars, and one of them is this car. I remember a neighbor who had this car, and I just thought, man, he's so rich and so fancy. There was a time, like, cool cars now, Porsches have always been cool, but if you had a neighbor or a friend whose dad or mom drove a BMW or a Mercedes, that was prime. And in a matter of fact, I was like, what could I pull out? And I could pull out the basic that was done, the 6 Series, you know, because it has the same silhouette, similar silhouette from this era that was done in basic this year by Brian. But I thought, you know, I'll just briefly, I think if I was going to go any direction, we're just going to open this up. It would be, this is a later car by quite a few years, of course, but I'd go back to that era when BMWs and Mercedes, and there's not a lot of BMWs from that, but BMWs and Mercedes were just so cool. And this is where I'd kind of go. And there's a lot of Mercedes. I'm not going to dig into those, but I would think I would pull out Mercedes. And, you know, and Hot Wheels has represented it pretty well, but there's a million more directions they could go if they wanted to. And they probably will. They have plenty of time. An 80s and 90s car, cars are definitely the bee's knees right now. Let's open this up. Don't know if there's anything else here. Obviously, this has relevance to Stranger Things, but it also is a casting that I just cannot wait to see pop into other. I'm going to try and open this up on camera. Into other lines, we'll say. It's kind of a different cut on this blister. I wonder if they're changing this kind of line of blisters on for 2026. Not that one. All right, opening from the bottom, which I always try and do, but a lot of times I forget. That's cool art. All right. This is so rad. Let's get it. Let's just look at the details here. First, it's all about that nose. I mean, that's just a silhouette that it just takes me into a different era. I just love it. I just love it. You know, the race cars are based on this, you know, that kind of this nose, but there's something about seeing them as street cars. The wheels are great. They definitely fit. Good use of those lace wheels. Look at that big freaking bumper. Got to have the big freaking bumper. Oh my gosh, I'm in love. I am in love with this car. I like the interior. I like the trim on it. What's the official name on this one? 33 BMW 733i, so, or 83, I'm sorry, as is marked on the card. Consider me a huge fan of this one. A great start. So this one really is taking a lot of my attention for starting at 2026, and I hope to see this one very soon come with some sort of 80s mix or something for car culture. It'd be so rad. All right, there you go. BMW is just rich right now from Hot Wheels, especially in premium. And when you've got a new M5, a classic 80s BMW, and what is going to be, I mean, this M3 GTR, based on the response to it, I mean, it's going to be like the Ferraris that have been, like, people are going to be knocking down doors at Target and Walmart to get these. Maybe the best way to go is through hobby dealers, because that's going to be a very popular car. No, it's just Walmart, right? It's Boulevard. Shoot. Oh, it's going to be tough. Anyway, talk more about that one later. Thanks, everybody. Tell me what you think. Bye.